I thought money bought loyalty. Turns out, it only revealed who was pretending to be loyal. She had everything. Private jets, mansions, status, access to a life most people will never touch. And still, she chose to lie behind my back. While I was building companies worth millions, she was building secrets with someone who wanted my life, not her. This isn't a love story. It's a slow betrayal inside extreme luxury. And the ending isn't what she expected. Subscribe now. Because what happened next changed who I am forever. I found the message by accident. No drama. No explosion. Just one sentence on her phone that didn't belong to a married woman. It wasn't explicit. That was the scary part. It was familiar. Comfortable. Intimate in a quiet way. I stared at the screen longer than I should have. Not because I didn't understand, but because I understood too well. I didn't confront her. I didn't ask questions. I decided to watch instead. When you're a CEO, you learn something early. The loud move is rarely the smart one. Information is power. Silence is leverage. That night, she kissed me like nothing had happened. Same smile. Same voice. And for the first time it felt rehearsed. I realized something unsettling. She wasn't afraid of losing me. She was confident she wouldn't. And that confidence didn't come from love. It came from a backup plan I hadn't fully seen yet. The changes started small. New clothes. New routines. New excuses that didn't need permission. She suddenly cared about places she used to mock. Private gyms. Exclusive events. People she randomly met. I paid for everything without hesitation. The lifestyle. The freedom. The illusion of loyalty. And she spent it rehearsing another life. Her phone was always face down. Her smile showed up late. Her attention was somewhere else, already invested. I noticed the timing. Her absences lined up perfectly with my busiest days. Board meetings. Travel. Deals that couldn't wait. While I was securing contracts, she was securing options. I realized something brutal. I wasn't just being betrayed. I was funding the confidence behind it. Every credit card swipe felt different after that. Not painful. Clarifying. She didn't feel guilty because she felt safe. Safe people take risks they shouldn't. And I let her feel safe, just long enough to see how far she would go. I saw them together for the first time in a place she said she hated. A rooftop bar. Loud music. Cameras everywhere. He wasn't discreet. That alone told me everything. Men who respect consequences don't act like that. He touched her waist like it was familiar territory. She didn't pull away. She leaned in. In that moment, something clicked. It wasn't about attraction. It was about validation. He represented attention without effort. Status without responsibility. A lifestyle that looks powerful at night and disappears by morning. She laughed louder with him. Not happier. Just louder. I realized she wasn't trading me for a better man. She was trading stability for applause. And applause is addictive when you're empty. I watched from a distance, calm. Not hurt. Focused. Because now I knew the type of world she wanted. And I knew exactly how fragile that world really was. She started asking questions she never cared about before. Numbers. Equity. Valuations. Not out of curiosity. Out of comparison. She wanted to know who I met. Who I worked with. Who admired me when she wasn't around. At first it sounded like interest. Then it felt like surveillance. Love doesn't audit you like that. I noticed the shift in her tone. Less admiration. More measurement. She didn't celebrate my wins anymore. She analyzed them. As if my success was a scoreboard she was losing. That's when it hit me. She wasn't cheating because she felt unloved. She was cheating because she wanted to feel superior. The man she chose wasn't richer. He was louder. And loud feels powerful to insecure people. She wanted to be the prize in a room that clapped for her. Not the partner building something invisible and permanent. And that's when I understood the real betrayal. She didn't want my life. She wanted to outgrow it without earning it. I stopped asking where she was going. I stopped questioning the late nights. Silence became intentional. She mistook my restraint for weakness. That was her biggest error. Confidence without awareness is reckless. I increased my focus at work. More deals. More travel. Less emotional availability at home. Not as punishment. As preparation. I watched her grow bolder. Less careful. More visible. As if she wanted to be caught. And maybe she did. Because getting caught still gives attention. Leaving quietly doesn't. I let her believe I was distracted. That my empire mattered more than my marriage. That I wouldn't notice the cracks. In reality, I was documenting everything. Patterns. Names. Timelines. Truth doesn't need drama. It needs proof. She smiled more during that phase. Victory does that to people who think short-term. She felt chosen. And I let her feel that way. Because nothing exposes intention faster than letting someone act without resistance. She told me she needed space. Not because we were fighting. Because she felt confused. That word always means the same thing. It means someone else is giving attention without asking for accountability. She said she felt invisible next to my success. That my focus made her feel small. As if my discipline was a personal attack. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I listened. And the more she spoke, the clearer it became. She wasn't asking for connection. She was asking for permission. Permission to drift. Permission to explore. Permission to keep me as a safety net. She wanted freedom with benefits. Independence funded by my stability. Love without sacrifice. I nodded. Not in agreement. In confirmation. Because when someone explains why they're leaving, they're really explaining why they've already left. And in that moment, I knew. The marriage wasn't ending soon. It had ended a long time ago. I didn't find out through gossip. I found out through numbers. A transfer that didn't make sense. A receipt that didn't match the story. A pattern that repeated too cleanly to be accidental. Luxury trips labeled as personal growth. Gifts disguised as networking. Money moving where honesty wasn't. I followed the trail quietly. No accusations. No emotion. Just confirmation. That's when I saw his name. Not as a rumor. As a beneficiary. The man she said was just a friend, was receiving what my marriage was paying for. In that moment, betrayal stopped being emotional. It became contractual. I realized she wasn't just cheating on me. She was reallocating resources as if my empire was communal property. I closed the file and sat in silence. Not angry. Resolved. Because once betrayal crosses into entitlement, there's no conversation left to have. Only consequences waiting to be delivered. I stopped including her in decisions. Not out of spite. Out of clarity. Lawyers replaced conversations. Accountants replaced trust. Silence replaced promises. I reviewed everything. Companies. Assets. Exposure. Every door she had access to. She didn't notice at first. Comfort makes people careless. Especially when they think they're untouchable. I restructured quietly. Nothing dramatic. Just precise. Ownership adjusted. Spending monitored. Boundaries enforced on paper. While she was planning weekends, I was planning exits. She thought distance meant freedom. She didn't realize it also meant removal. Because the most dangerous moment in betrayal is when the betrayed stops hoping. And I had already moved past hope into execution. She called me confused. Not angry. Uncertain. Her card stopped working that morning. Not declined dramatically. Just unavailable. She thought it was a mistake. A system error. Something I would fix. I didn't. She showed up that night different. Less confident. Carefully polite. She asked questions that avoided responsibility. Did something happen? Is everything okay? I answered calmly. Everything was fine. For me. That's when panic replaced arrogance. Not because she lost me. Because she lost access. She realized independence felt expensive. And applause doesn't pay invoices. I watched the shift happen in real time. The moment entitlement meets reality. And still I didn't explain. Because explanations soften consequences. She didn't apologize. Not directly. Pride rarely allows that. She asked if I could support her for a while. Just until things stabilized. Just until she figured things out. Her voice was softer. Her posture smaller. The confidence was gone. I saw fear behind her eyes. Not remorse. Fear of instability. She talked about stress. About pressure. About how the world felt unfair lately. I listened without interrupting. Not because I cared. Because silence makes people reveal motives. She wanted reassurance. That I would still be there. That consequences were negotiable. I told her I believed she was strong. Independent. Capable of handling her own choices. She didn't like that answer. Because empowerment sounds different when it's no longer optional. That night she realized something brutal. Support was never unconditional. It was earned. She started staying out later again. Not because she was happy. Because she was avoiding reality. The man she chose began to change. Less attention. More excuses. Applause fades when the lights turn off. And suddenly she was alone with him without an audience. She tried to make him step up. Plans. Promises. Support. He dodged every one. That's when it hit her. He never wanted a future. He wanted access. Access to my lifestyle. My circle. My stability through her. When that disappeared, so did his interest. She came home quiet that night. Not defeated. Exposed. Because losing a husband hurts. But discovering you were never chosen at all cuts deeper. And that realization stayed with her. Long after he stopped answering, she started remembering things differently. Suddenly, I was always supportive. Suddenly, we had something special. She talked about memories like they were assets. As if nostalgia could renegotiate reality. As if time could be reversed with emotion. She said she missed us. Not love. Stability. I noticed how careful her words were. No accountability. No ownership. She wanted to return without consequences. To reset without admitting failure. To step back into comfort quietly. I didn't correct her version of the past. I let it exist. Alone. Because when someone rewrites history, it's not for healing. It's for survival. And survival without honesty never lasts long. My life became quieter. Not smaller. More controlled. I stopped attending events that existed only for appearances. I chose rooms where decisions mattered. Where respect didn't need noise. My companies expanded into new markets. Bigger numbers. Fewer people with access. Power feels different when it's clean. No emotional leaks. No internal sabotage. I became more selective. With time. With people. Meanwhile, she stayed visible. Social. Always explaining her version of events. She needed to be seen as misunderstood. I didn't need to be seen at all. That's the real shift. When you stop defending your story, it's because you've already won. And from that distance, I could finally see how far ahead I was moving. We ran into each other by coincidence. Not dramatic. Just inconvenient. She noticed the details first. The calm. The absence of urgency. I was dressed simply. But everything about me was intentional. That kind of control is visible. She asked how I was. I answered honestly. Better. She mentioned how hard things had been. How confusing life became. As if struggle was unexpected. I didn't ask questions. I didn't offer updates. Distance had done the talking. She looked at me like someone realizing a door had closed quietly and permanently. Not angry. Regretful. Because losing luxury hurts. But losing access to stability changes how you see your own decisions. And that moment stayed with her. Long after we walked away. She never apologized the way people expect. And I never asked. Some endings don't need words. They need distance. And time doing its job. My life didn't improve out of revenge. It improved because there was no longer resistance. No one pulling in the wrong direction. I became richer. Not just financially. In focus. In peace. In precision. She stayed behind with questions. With versions of herself that never worked. With regret that had nowhere to go. I didn't win by humiliating her. I won by becoming unreachable. That's the kind of power no one prepares you for. The power of silence. Of growth that doesn't look back. And sometimes, the most painful consequence is realizing too late that the life you lost was the only real one you had. I didn't block her. I didn't forgive her either. I just kept growing. In silence. In directions she could no longer follow. She learned that regret is loud when power has already moved on. And sometimes the hardest punishment isn't losing love. It's watching someone become untouchable after you chose to walk away. Would you have done the same? Or would you have needed closure? Because silence isn't cold. It's expensive.